love jamming out. So, welcome to the Sober Heathen podcast. I am the Sober Heathen, Scott. Another good podcast today. A couple things right off the top. I want to wish my two little boys, they are 10 today, they're in double digits. Very happy birthday to Gage and Easton. I hope you boys have a great day, and I love you with all my heart. Also, as far as the fundraiser goes, today is the last day. Tomorrow, we are going to be delivering boxes and boxes of clothes and hygiene products and school supplies and all kinds of cool stuff up to Harbor Hall. I'm very excited to get these things up to these people that are fighting for their lives during the holiday season. Every little bit helps. So if you contributed by donating, or if you contributed just by liking and sharing the post, thank you very much. You're making a difference. So today, very excited. Our last interview went so well. Today we have one of my family members. She's my cousin. We've been talking on and off in my recovery journey. She's been very supportive. She has a story to tell. I'm very excited to hear the story. Her name is Crystal, and I'm going to just flip it right over to her and let her go crazy with this thing. Crystal, welcome. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm really proud of you for your journey. It's been great to watch, and I'm rooting for you all the way. So I just want to. I'm happy you're doing this. You know, it's a good thing you're doing. So my name's Crystal. I'm 38, and I've been in recovery for 15 years. I was an active IV user. My drug of choice was meth. To kind of help you understand how I got. To kind of help you understand how I got where I was at. So my parents, they met in the 80s, and they were both pretty active in, their addiction. And I'm a product of their madness. So neither of them really were ready to be parents. My biological father's from Michigan. My mom's from Arkansas. They kind of met in Texas, and that's where they had me, and we moved to Michigan. And my mom really tried. She did. She tried to, be with him and tried to make it work. But because of the alcohol and the drugs, there's a lot of violence. So, my mom took me back to Arkansas, and I lived there for a long time. And when I was 5, that part of my biological father's side, they came to Arkansas, and they got to know me for about a year, and then they fought really hard in Michigan, and they took me away. And so, that kind of threw my mom over a loop. My mom was dealing with addiction, and she, lost her baby, so my mom did her thing, and I moved to Michigan, where I lived at my grandma's house. She was pretty awesome. She was really awesome, actually. And I got to see my biological dad once in a while. He'd pop in, and every once in a while I got to stay at his house. But, he wasn't ready to be a dad either. And spent a lot of time in other bars. So addiction's kind of something that runs in my family. I think sorry, I'm really, really nervous. I'm really nervous. So
Doing great. Doing great.
So, when they took me away from my mom, I still got to go visit her occasionally. And mostly I stayed with grandparents on both sides, with my parents. And when I met my biological father, he was really different. He long hair, biker clothes all the time, wearing black, and being from the South, men here clean shaven, and well, right now beards are in. But back in the 90s, in the early 90s, and the late 80s, it was a totally different world here than what it was there. And so the adjustment just to him was really hard for me. And I was yanked from my mom to people I really didn't know. So I was only 5, and I have 4 kids, and I can imagine that happened to my 14-year-old. So I think that at that moment was when I became damaged, was at that moment that they took me away from the only thing that I knew. But when I lived in Michigan, my granny, I said she was amazing, and I lived there with her. But sometimes he would take me to his house, and on a few occasions, he molested me. And I told my mom, and when I told my mom, because I got one visit with her after that, and I told her about it, and that was the last visit. She took me to the health department here, and they confirmed, oh yes, absolutely, this happened, and I had a really bad infection. So my mom had no choice but to send me back. The friend of the court are no friend at all, and so I had to go back. My grandma, I think my grandma always knew that, yeah, that most certainly happened. But for the next few months, I had CPS workers in and out of my grandma's house. They were taking me in and out of doctor's offices. And, you know, because of the big court, there was a huge court battle and everything over me. And so because of all of that, they said that my mom either brainwashed me to say that, but there was clear evidence. So they said, well, it must have happened while you were with her. And so that was the last time I seen my mom. And so, you know, that, your mom is supposed to be, your protector. And my mom wasn't perfect, but, she was my mom. And this happened to me and she couldn't protect me. And, I was told growing up that she chose her drugs over me. And, that definitely wasn't the case with her. But, he never sat a day in jail. He never lost parental rights. I stayed with my grandma until my grandma passed away. Well, he got married. He married another woman who I love her. She's amazing. She she kept me safe. She kept me safe because my grandma died when I was 12. And so I had no choice but to be with him and be a family. And, that was really hard. That nobody believed me. And that was the hardest part, that no one believed me. And I haven't really shared it because people haven't believed me, especially from there. So when I was 15, I ran away. I had a boyfriend, and that was when I realized what really happened to me. I realized that was so wrong. And I went crazy. I went completely crazy. I tried to kill myself. I ran away, and I got a great cousin, Billy. I'm going to say her name because she helped me find my grandparents and my mom. After 14 years, she helped me. And the next day, I literally was on a plane to Houston to see my grandparents. And, my mom was pretty active in her addiction at that time. And I did stay here. I stayed here for 3 months and I got pregnant. And I went back home. I was scared, I was scared. I went back home to my friends, and, I didn't have any family because when I walked away, when I ran away, I was the problem. I was, defiant. I was a bad kid. And so this is the reputation I have with our family, is that I'm the problem. And, you know, I'm okay with that. I am. So I played back and forth after my son was born, back and forth, Arkansas, Michigan, just trying to find where I fit in. I promised myself that I would never do drugs, ever, never. I promised myself I would never be an alcoholic. I would give my son the best life that I could give him. And I found myself here, and I was here for a while, and I was trying to work it out with my son's dad, because everybody wants that perfect marriage. He was going in the military, and he really wasn't doing much with his life while he was waiting. So I had to work. I was a CNA in Michigan, but my license didn't transfer here. So the making money to pay my bills now and take care of a kid was pretty, there's really a whole lot of options. I started dancing in a club, and, still wasn't using, still, still holding good to my promise, drinking a little bit, but I still was not even 20 years old. I was really young. I was 19. And, dancing there's a lot of women in there that have been through sexual, trauma. And so I could relate to those women, but it was like reliving my trauma every single time I got on the stage. But the money was really good and I could give my son the things he needed. I wanted to be a nurse and, I don't have anybody to help me pay for that. I didn't have anybody to help me at all. And I had a friend and she was like, hey, I got this little pill and I promise you, you'll feel great. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's a pill. I'm going to be fine because it's a pill. And she told me, she explained the pill to me, that they used to be used for people who have PTSD when they came back from Vietnam. And she gave me this whole history on this pill before she gave it to me. And I'm like, oh, well, that's not drugs. Well, it was ecstasy. So most certainly it was drugs. But I'm going to tell you, when I took this, everything went quiet in my head. Everything, I didn't feel. And it was great. And so for a few months, I was popping those things every time I worked. And, my husband, my son's dad, his parents helped me watch my son a lot when I worked. And so, I kind of justified the whole getting high thing because it was okay because my son was with his grandparents. And, that's what we do as addicts. We try to justify our behavior. And, so one night I worked and I went to pick him up the next day, and I had a big fight with my mom and found out a bunch of bad stuff about her. And it felt like everything they told me about my mom was just all true. And it was so hard that she couldn't love me enough to be straight. And, I wasn't sleeping very well. I was pretty much a single mom. My ex-husband was gone and basic. And I had an accident. I had a car accident with my son. I hit a culvert and I flipped 4 times. And I was thrown 76 feet. I was stuck out my sunroof, and he was in a car seat, but it wasn't the right size for him. I was 20 years old. I had no idea. I had him in the front seat. I didn't, I was young, and, we make mistakes. But my son was also thrown out of the car. He had swelling in his brain. They sent him to our children's hospital. I don't really remember being in the hospital at all for myself. I was there overnight and I was pretty broke. I was pretty broken. Really, they had me drugged up pretty good, but everyone kept telling me, I just kept saying, I have to go to Jameson. I just have to go be with him. And I spent 5 days laying on this couch, watching these numbers go up and down and watching the swelling. And, the smell in the room, it's a haunting smell. And it's just, it's really hard. And when 4 days of him being in a coma, they had him in a coma, medically induced a coma, try to make the swelling go down. And they told us that he was completely brain dead, and that if we had any plans to donate any of his organs, that we had to take him off life support. And I don't know how I made the decision. I don't remember so much I've blocked out. But they put him in my arms and they turned the machine off. And they told me, they said it could take days, hours. We don't know. He has a really strong heart. So we don't really know. And it took seconds. And I knew the moment I felt his soul just leave his body, and mine too. And I yelled, get him off of me. Just get him off of me. And I remember they looked at me like, she's crazy, So they got him off of me. And as I was walking out of the room, I heard them say, time of death. And that was hard. I went home and I laid in bed, watched his favorite movie over and over and over for days. And after like the third day, I was like, that's it. I'm going to die. I'm going to take my life. God had other plans, because I went outside and there was the entire police department surrounding this house. And they said they got a call that I was going to kill myself, but I didn't tell anybody. And they were also there, you know, because they were arresting me. They were arresting me for negligent homicide. And when I had the accident, they wanted to do a BAC test, you know, a blood and alcohol test. And I wasn't able to sign for that. And it states on the paper that I was unable to sign. I was just thrown out of the car. They had me on so much drugs. I mean, you know, I couldn't sign it. So because of the refusal, I've got a DUI. So without any facts, you know, as soon as my son died, the prosecutor snatched that right up. And you know, with my mom being in addiction in a small town, and my dad, my stepdad, but he's my dad, and he was, you know, he was on federal probation, and you know, I kind of felt like I was, you know, really definitely targeted because I wasn't drinking. Of course, I did ecstasy. You know, I was using ecstasy, and you know, had they maybe drawn my blood, maybe they would have seen that. You know, but it had been, you know, several days. So, you know, I don't know, but because of that refusal, I got the DUI. And I spent 5 days in jail. I had never been in trouble. I never even had a ticket. And, you know, I was scared, and I didn't understand that was literally my higher power protecting me. And I didn't know, because I didn't believe in God, did not believe in God, did not. How could there be a God with all these bad things that happened? How could there? And that's the way I lived my life. And I spent 5 days, and they let me bond out. I got bonded out, and I immediately went to the first drug house that I knew. I went there, and I just needed, I don't know what I needed. I needed to be numb. And my friend, she was an IV user. She was, you know, making meth, and I threw her $100, and she gave me $100 worth of crystal meth. And, you know, I told her I wanted to do it like she does it. And she's like, well, how much? And I'm like, all of it, because I wanted to die. That's it. I was like, this is going to be it. This is going to kill me. This is going to make my heart explode. You know, 20 years ago, $100 was a lot of money, or a lot of meth for, you know. And so she pulled it up, she put it in my arm, and I didn't die. I didn't die. Everything went completely numb. I was completely numb. And for the next 3 years, it stayed that way. And, you know, I just got out there. I absconded, you know, because clearly I was strung out. I wasn't going back to court. I already blamed myself enough for this. You know, accidents, they happen. And I don't know what happened. I don't know why I had the accident. I have flashbacks sometimes, but I don't know what happened. I don't know. I worked a lot. Maybe I fell asleep. I don't know. But, you know, for 3 years, that was my life. And I missed court. They put warrants out for me. They went to my little sister in Michigan's graduation because they were looking for me. Like, they wanted me so bad. And I went to Reno, and under a fake name. Like, the things that you do on drugs, it's just insane. And they came and got me, and they brought me back, and they brought me back in love. You know, like, we're going to get you here, and we're going to get this taken care of. You're going to make it. And that's what Officer Gurley, he told me this all the way on the drive back from Reno. You know, this is going to be good. This is going to be good for you. Well, I sat there for almost 11 months waiting to go to court. And every time I go to court, they'd be like, no bond, no bond. And I met a lot of people in there, and I got clean. I had no choice but to get clean. And you know, I went to court, and they offered me a plea bargain. And if I would have known what I know now, that I would never have taken it, because they didn't have a case. And but I so young, and I had a public defender and, you know, a reputation now. And so they offered me 10 years probation and a $10,000 fine. And I pled no contest, because there was no way I was going to, you know, get down. You get down. You go to bed right now. Go to bed. Sorry, my dogs. They're my other kids. And so I pled no contest, and I'm a felon. I'm a felon for manslaughter. And that's hard. That's my dreams of being a nurse are done for now. But when I got out of jail, I did really good. I was working 2 jobs, normal jobs, and going to probation, not using, not drinking. I actually was dating a cop, and, you know, just doing good. And then he dumped me. And that was the first time I ever got dumped. And I was already so vulnerable. And I met up with one of my old friends and started using again. And I moved away again. And I didn't let myself get out there to the point of running away to Reno, because I went to probation. I never want to go back to jail again. That was awful. You know, that's terrible. And I did good. I still was getting high, but I was still going to probation, making sure I was passing those tests. And then I met my husband. And I had met my husband a few years before that. I met him at the dope house. He was with somebody, and I was really unstable. And so when I met him again, he was single, and I was a little more stable. And I don't know, he gave me this hug, and I'll never forget this hug that he gave me. It was incredible. And he's 6'3", and, you know, he's kind of a skinny guy, but, you know, just this hug, it filled me. And I was obsessed with him. I was just infatuated with him. Like, he loved me for what? I was a complete mess. And he did something to me. And in 3 months of us dating, he was leaving for the military too. I guess I have a type, right? So he's leaving for the military, and he had to go and get his GED through this program and all that. So he was gone for 21 days. And I drove around the base a lot trying to see him. And I decided when he was gone that I wanted to get better. I wanted to have a baby, and I wanted to have his baby. And that's crazy, because after what I'd been through, I vowed I would never. I had to have an abortion, you know, medically, you know, a medical reason, but I wanted the abortion in between, you know, my husband and Jameson, because I didn't want any kids. I could not go through that again, because bad stuff happens to me, you know, bad stuff happens. And Joey changed that for me. I knew the only way I would truly get better is if I had to. And I talked him into it. He was gone for 21 days, and he came home, and I was like, hey, I want to have your baby. And he's like, hey, okay. And, you know, we were only together for 3 months. So I was clean maybe 2 weeks, you know, maybe 2 weeks. And 2 weeks, almost to the day, we took a test, and it was positive. And, you know, that was it. That was the day not the day I took the test, but the day I decided that I wanted that. I wanted that. I needed that. And, you know, my husband and I have 4 kids now, and we've been together for almost 16 years. So that's pretty awesome. And, yeah, you know, it's been crazy. I need you 2 to go to bed right now. Go to bed now. I thought it would be easy because the kids aren't here. Yeah. But, you know, I found something better. I found a high that like I've never, like nobody's ever loved me. I felt like nobody has ever stayed in my life forever, not even my own child. And that's hard. Like you've been the problem. I have always been the problem. And my husband, I am not a problem to him. Like he gave me that. He was sent to me. And I didn't have God to help me with my recovery. I didn't have rehab to help me. I had me. And so when people say that, well, some you're divided, that some people say that addiction is a choice, and then some people say, it's not a choice. And it was my choice to pick those drugs up. It was my choice to put that pill in my mouth. But once I activated those substances in my brain, it's no longer a choice. But when my husband hugged me, he activated something in me that, I I I pray that that will happen for other people. And I didn't believe in God for a long time still. I practiced Wicca for as long as I could remember, and then when Jameson died, I was scared because I had these people tell me, "Oh, you're going to see him again in heaven," and you know, um, I was like, "Well, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? And what if my tarot cards are wrong? What if this is wrong?" And I started searching, and I wanted to be with my baby again, and was I was so afraid to even pick up my tarot cards or to read this Bible or read this book or read anything because I was afraid I'd be wrong. And that's why I lost Jameson. Was maybe it was because of my tarot cards. Maybe God was like, hey, I'm going to take him because you're wrong. And I was so confused spiritually. And I just gave up on it all. I put my tarot cards away. I never touched them again. I didn't want to be wrong and lose Zayden. That's my oldest son. And then we had our next one like 18 months later, and then we had our twins 14 months later. And I was sitting in the neonatal with my twins, and I swear I hear this voice, and it says Jackie. And I'm like, I got up and I shut the door, and I was already a mess because I was trying to pump for my twins and I wasn't getting anything. They were in the hospital, and I had two boys at home. My husband was laid off, and it felt like the world was crumbling. And I just hear this Jackie, and I'm like, oh, I only know two Jackies: my stepdad, his brother, and my ex-father-in-law. And I knew it probably wasn't him, so I ran to my mom and dad's house, and I was like, this happened to me. This happened. So my daddy gets on the phone and he calls my uncle, and my uncle prays with me, and I don't know what he prays. He's Pentecostal, and so he really prays. And something happened to me then. And it was like after that, I really got involved in the church, and I spent 10 years very hard dedicated into the church. I'm church hurt right now, and I don't want to stay in their little box. I kind of like to go outside the box. And so, I'm spiritually in a mess right now. But, I do have God, most certainly, and I wouldn't be able to function daily if I didn't. And, but I didn't get, jailhouse religion or recovery religion. I really did find that on my own. My sister in Christ, she said, make sure you talk about how God, talk about how God. So that's my talk about how God for her, So, but that's my story. And it's been a story, all right. So that's why I'm an addict. Now, I say that I am an addict because I still have addictive things. I find other obsessions. I find other things to try to, distract my mind, be numb for the moment, and it's something I probably will always deal with. One thing I wanted to say is, like, my kids, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I spend all my time with them. They're my only friends, really. And so with my oldest son, he had a pacifier. And when he was like 2, we're like, you got to get rid of it, and you have a baby brother, and he sucked his thumb because there was no way I was giving him a pacifier because this other kid, I couldn't get rid of it. And so I watched him struggle with this obsession, with this addiction to this pacifier. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is a real thing. Like at an infant, and he was 1, 2 years old, and he was addicted to this thing. So when we took it away, he started sucking his thumb. He traded this addiction as a baby, as a toddler. He's going to kill me for this, 13 years old, and I'm still seeing his thumb in his mouth. At 13, he's not 13 anymore, but I still would see him. So he still has this addiction. But his younger brother, when he came to me and he said, I don't want to suck my finger anymore. And I was like, okay, great. What tool can I give you to help you? So we painted this nasty stuff on his finger. And every day he'd be like, how many days has it been? And I'm like, it's been 3 days. And, he's like, okay, great. And after like a week, he didn't need me to paint that on his finger anymore. That was just a reminder because it was so natural. And so he broke this addiction he had very easily. And, it was neat for me to watch that addiction does. It does run in families. It probably is something that's hereditary. I met my husband in the drug house, but I never seen him strung out. I'd only seen him do meth a couple times. He's not, he was drinking for a while and actually started to have a little problem a few years ago. And the first big issue, immediately we nipped it in the butt, and he hasn't had a drink. And, it was so easy for him. And so I think that our middle son, he's probably more like his dad, to where, addiction's thick in my family, and it's been swept under the rug. It's not talked about. Just because Uncle so-and-so has a beer in his hand at 10:30 in the morning, that's normal. He always does. You never see him drunk. These functional alcoholics, they, I don't even know, because, I ran away from home. I don't know a lot of my family history, but I definitely remember a lot of my uncles with beers in their hands in the morning. And, it's crazy. It's definitely crazy, but I'm good. I'm oversharing. I know, Christy, I'm oversharing.
Not at all. Not at all. And I take it for what it's worth, but I'm very fucking proud of you.
Thanks.
That was awesome. Very vulnerable. And I think when I don't know, I can't tell you how you're going to feel, but I think that you're going to feel pretty good about yourself when you re-listen to this tonight or down the road. You're going to be able to listen to this, and more things are going to come to your mind. And I think, hopefully this is a start where you can continue to share and continue to help people, because, your story is unique because it's your own, but there's so many similarities. I have a list of things that you hit on that are, that I've felt, that I've been through. And I know that there's other women out there that have gone through what you've gone through, and they will benefit from hearing your story. So very proud of you for doing
I
that.
really hope so. By our testimony, that's what they say.
Yeah. Yeah. And you one of the last things you said there, it's something that's not talked about, you're putting it, pushing it under the rug. I think the key, the biggest way to get through this is talking about it and getting it out there. Somebody called me a functioning alcoholic years ago, and that was the motivation I needed to continue to use more, to drink more, because I was like, oh yeah, shit, I'm functioning. I didn't get what he meant. Right. I missed the, but I was like, yeah, I'm functioning, man. I'm making lots of money. I got a wife, a house, of kids, and all this stuff. I'm fine. Drinking at 10:30 in the morning, that's fine.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So I get it. Yeah. And you talked about a product of madness. I like that terminology. Hereditary. I believe it's absolutely hereditary. I think it can skip generations, but I myself, I'm at least a 4th generation alcoholic. So it's good that you're noticing these things, that awareness. I too, I have a history of molestation. I don't remember it. But I know the counseling that I had at a young age. I know the thoughts that I was having at a young age, boys in kindergarten shouldn't be thinking about having sex with girls in kindergarten. You know what I
Right.
mean? So that, I mean, that's, again, to have the courage to be able to talk about it early on, the sooner the better. It's only going to benefit.
It's that's one of the hard things for me because I still see my abuser being praised, and I see him posing with other little girls because he looks like a celebrity, and it makes me sick. It makes me uh, I just it's very hard. It's very
Sure.
hard. I have a lot to do with my sister, and she's still part of his life, and you know that's a hard one. That's a hard one for me.
Yeah.
That's one that I don't get over very well. And it's been hard for my husband, our relationship, when it comes to being intimate. It's very, very hard.
Sure.
And we work through it.
Yeah.
Get over here and lay down right now.
I gotta say too, mom skills in full effect in the
And
podcast.
that's my dog.
You were able to turn and take care of business with the dogs, and then come right back in and didn't lose focus. Mom skills,
Right.
mom skills on showcase. Okay. Yeah. I mean, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I got to hear your story. I'm very proud of you. Clearly, you've been through so much, and now you're doing great with the kids. You can see it on social media, your posts, how proud of a mama you are, and you obviously have a good relationship with your husband. I'm so happy that you found him.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
anytime, and down the road, if you think of more things that you want to share, I got plans for this thing. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but
Right.
there,
Yeah.
I would like to do someday down the road. I would like to do some sort of like live Q&A. So
Okay.
if you're interested in that, maybe in the future.
Absolutely. That'd be fun. Yeah,
Okay.
it'd be absolutely fun. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Crystal.
Yeah. Thank you. Me.
This was great, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Keep killing it. Okay.
All right. You too.
All right.
Bye bye.